I love going to theme parks. Well,
really? You don't
Obviously,
say.
that's why we're here today. But even I can acknowledge that parks don't always do everything right.
No, obviously.
They certainly try, but we're all human. We all do things, and sometimes you have to make decisions of what is best for your business. And, you know, sometimes that means that the customers don't always get the right end of the stick.
Yeah, of course.
And so what we wanted to do today was discuss some of the things that bother us most about visiting a theme park.
Yeah, and to clarify, this is not like an angry rant or anything like that. These are legitimate, valid problems that, you know, are seen across the board at a lot of theme parks. And, you know, for the most part, we're offering a solution. Mm-hmm. And a lot of parks actually do the solutions that we're talking about. We'd just like to see them more widespread.
And so we're going to keep these fairly broad.
Yeah.
So that it encompasses a wide audience. And, you know, so we'll cite a couple specific examples here. But the whole goal with this is for improvement. You know, we just want to have the best experience possible. And I genuinely believe that if a park followed some of these things, you're going to have an excellent day. Inconsistency. I think one of the things that bothers me most is when you have, it seems like a policy that has been set up, but then it either isn't being followed through or they're making a lot of exceptions, and it just seems like there's a lot of miscommunication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. It kind of makes, you know, like a park experience feel like a guessing game. Like there shouldn't be so much room for wondering, if that makes sense.
They just need to make it clear.
Yeah, because to cite a specific example, we visited Six Flags Mexico. Beautiful park, wonderful staff. However, they have policies that are not adhered by all the way through in all departments. Or, for example, they will tell you that all the big rides will close 15 minutes before park close, but then
some close 45 minutes before or something.
Exactly. And then one night maybe they won't close until 5 minutes before, and it
seems randomized.
It's very random, and I noticed, you know, it wasn't just us, but I was watching people who were, you know, clearly they were, you know, from the area, spoke the language, so it wasn't like a language barrier thing, but they're all running around all over the place trying to find an open ride in the last half hour of the night.
Yeah, trying to figure out what is open because it's not being clearly stated. Yeah. And it seems like it is not based off of the length of the line either. And even if it was, it's not clarified. So, yeah, I feel like inconsistency is such a simple thing. Just, you know, communicate.
Second one, and this is a huge one, and it should be completely illegal to not do this properly, but the water problem.
Water at theme parks.
It's a nightmare. It should not be, like water is a fundamental necessity. I understand that, like, soda and, like, beer and cocktails and all that stuff, like, that's a novelty. That's not needed, but you need water to get through a day.
And when it is 95 degrees out and you're asking for a cup of water and they give you something this big. And it's like, okay, well, can I just get it in a larger cup? No, but we can give you 4 small water cups.
Yeah, it doesn't make... I understand that they're trying to cut costs on, like, their actual drink cups, but if that's the case, then your water fountains should all be functional. They should have the... What are they called? Like, the things that you can put your bottle underneath and it refills automatically.
Yeah, and it'll just, like, straight so you can refill your bottle.
Yes, but I've found a number of parks where they don't give you anything but the little tiny cups, and the lines are insanely long, and you have to, like, wait in a food line
to get a cup of water.
Yeah, and then their water fountains either aren't on, they're like really warm, or they don't have a water bottle refilling station. And that's where you get like the most amount of like chaos at a park. You get people like dropping like flies from like heat exhaustion and dehydration, and like that should not happen.
What about when a park has a strict no loose articles policy, so you can't even bring like water with you in line?
Yeah.
Like a water bottle, you know?
Exactly.
It's just... Hydration is so important.
Exactly.
And so when not everything goes smoothly, they're like, well, you're dehydrated. Were you drinking enough water? Well, probably not, because you're only giving me cups this big.
Exactly. And yeah, you don't want to keep getting back in like a line all day long and missing out on doing the rides because you're waiting in a 45-minute food line.
That's why I appreciate it when parks have at least just a beverage refill station only, you know, even if it's just for souvenir bottles or whatever, but at least that way you don't have to go waiting in a food line. So some parks definitely do this better than others.
Yes.
Honestly, one of the biggest buzzkills for me is when I am all excited to get to a ride or I'm at the park here to have a good day and you just encounter some employees that just don't want to be there. it's a mood killer, you know?
And I understand, like, as someone who, you know, has direct experience working in, like, the service industry, like, it sucks because oftentimes you're not paid the amount you should be getting paid. And oftentimes you're not treated all that well. But the thing is, if you want to climb the ladder and you want to do better, you have to treat that minimum wage job like it is the be-all, end-all. Like, you're working for the job you want, not the job you have. And when you see a lot of people at these parks that, yes, they're a ride operator, and yes, they're probably not making a ton of money, but if they're just miserable and, like letting that rub off on everybody else, like, the odds of you getting moved up or a company, like, being a good, like, ally for you for getting a better job in the future are not that high, you know? And
then on the contrary, when you encounter an employee that is going above and beyond, it is amazing how that can impact your day.
Absolutely.
How you walk away from that experience. One employee could leave you, walk away there saying, man, that just made my night.
Absolutely.
And so it reflects then when you have the opposite experience.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know, like, the service industry is, like, the hardest. You know, I've done my fair share of $3 an hour server jobs and so on and so forth, but, like, I want to do the best at that crappy job, you know, that I can for a better job in the future and to, you know, make the people around me happy. Like, if that's the best I can do, then, like, that's what I'm going to do. So the fourth one we have on here is dishonesty.
Yeah.
This is a real issue. I would rather, and I understand it's like a PR thing, I would rather parks be honest about why they are or are not doing certain things. For example, there have been parks that I'm not even going to name, SeaWorld, that will tell you that they do not have any preferred parking left. But they're only telling you that because you have an annual pass where it's prepaid. Now, if you were to go up to them and not have an annual pass and say, I want to buy preferred parking,
suddenly
there are
they
spaces
have preferred,
available.
Yeah. And then likewise, it's like, okay, no, I'm coming an hour before park close. You're telling me there are no spaces available in the preferred parking lot. And then if you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to go check. So you scroll up there, tons of spaces.
Yeah.
Tons of spaces open.
I would feel better if the park was honest and said, look, it's a really busy day. We had to cap annual pass holders on preferred parking. If you want to pay for it, I would obviously say no. I'd rather just walk or take a tram or whatever. But when it's like blatant lying.
One of my all-time least favorites, and this is exclusively because of the pandemic, and a lot of them did it, is they blame everything on COVID. And I understand, you know, there are a lot of after effects of that, you know, supply chain, you know, yes, not directly because of COVID, but, you know, kind of like an
As a result, yeah.
Yeah. This goes back to the water problem. Busch Gardens Williamsburg was a huge offender at this. They said, well, our water fountains are off because of COVID. This was in the summer of 2021. All the parks were maskless. No, your water fountains were not off because of COVID. Your water fountains were off because you're trying to save money. No, I'm dehydrated, I have to wait in a long line to get water because you're lying. You're saying that your water fountains are off because of COVID. No, they're not.
And then there's some, you know, there are parks that have really been adversely affected financially because of the pandemic. And I understand wanting to cut costs. But then there are parks like Walt Disney World that are posting record profits. Why? Because they're cutting things to make the park experience less for the guests, but also cost less for them. And they're just blaming it all on COVID. I think a lot of, not even just theme parks, I think a lot of businesses overall took COVID as an excuse or an opportunity to overhaul their system to be cheaper for them with the ability to say COVID. And there's nothing you can do about that, you know?
Another thing, this is such a simple thing. It seems like a simple thing to fix, but it is just putting all of your up-to-date, accurate information on your website in mobile app. I can't tell you how many times I have shown up to a place because the park hours are listed as one thing on an app, but they're listed something different on a website, or you show up and the park is closed, or on the contrary, the park was listed as closing in 15 minutes, but actually closes in an hour and 15 minutes. That happened to us at Six Flags Great America because the app was wrong. It's just as simple as putting updates. You cited a situation where if a ride is closed, it should be listed on the website. So then that way you have the right expectations going into a park. That would have saved us a visit to Michigan's Adventure when Shivering Timbers was closed.
Yeah, that wasn't listed
Put it on the website.
Anywhere at all. And like I understand like that it was an unfortunate situation that happened, but like you can put that on your website. You don't have to explain what happened. It's closed.
Temporarily unavailable.
Exactly, because I feel that if someone's gonna come and take a trip and spend their money, they should know exactly what they're getting.
Yes.
You know, and like for some people, they might say, you know what, we can go a different day when everything's open. But if you don't find out till you get there, you might not get that chance.
Yeah, and again, some parks do this way better than others.
Okay, the next one kind of goes along with what we were talking about before with like the water problem. Nickel and diming as an overall issue.
How can we get every last cent out of people?
Yeah, and there's definitely parks that are worse offenders than others. I can think of a park, Holiday World, is a perfect example of not doing that, of being upfront and honest about the cost.
Free sunscreen, free parking.
Free soft drinks.
Yeah.
It's all considered a part of your ticket price. And I think their ticket prices are pretty reasonable for what you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a little bit more expensive than some other parks, but it's just worked into the price of admission, so you feel better about it once you're actually there. But like, I'll throw Lagoon out there as an example. Again, it all goes back to the water problem. They charge 25 cents for a cup of water. And they say, well, it's the cup.
They cost like a penny to make.
You're
Less than
charging for water. No. I'm sorry, that's morally wrong.
Yeah.
I understand charging for a bottle, that's different. A cup of water? No. I'm sorry, you shouldn't do that.
And another one that I thought of, and I saw this the other day at King's Dominion. So you can get like the souvenir cups for unlimited refills or discounted refills. I don't know what the policy is. And these people were waiting in line for I-305, and they got to the front with their souvenir cups. They were told that they had to go get pay for a locker to put their souvenir cups in. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, if every time you go to a ride with your souvenir cup, that's supposed to save you money, and you have to keep purchasing a locker.
You're ended up spending more money than it probably would have just costed to just pay for a soda.
Exactly. It becomes not just, you know, because we can, but it's like full on taking advantage of your guest.
Yes, it's like we can get every last penny out of them because they don't have any other choice.
Yeah, and like I understand that there's like things at parks where there's like upcharges, you know, to do like a premium experience, like Sky Coaster.
Sure. No, but that's
and
what I'm
that's
saying.
fine.
If it's worth it, that's fine. Which, I mean, honestly, that leads into our next one, which is value.
Yeah.
Some things are premium experiences. So, naturally, I understand why Disney costs a lot more than a Six Flags park.
I mean, for God's sake, they're opening a $500 million
yes,
roller coaster.
I get this.
I get it.
That makes sense. But it has to feel worth it. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Like, personally, going back to the soda thing, I don't feel like a soda is worth $4.50. That value is not there. $2? Yeah, that's worth it. I mean, but every person's going to be different. Some parks, I feel like, are overstepping to the point where I don't feel like it would be worth that value. I'm going to cite American Dream here. They know that because they're located outside of New York City, the options are limited. And so they have raised the prices for Nickelodeon Universe and the DreamWorks Water Park to where it is exponentially more expensive than what the average park would cost like for a similar experience. I mean, you do a direct comparison with other indoor parks like Nickelodeon Universe and Mall of America, and you're paying double just because it's located outside of New York City. DreamWorks Water Park costs about $100
That's
to
like
attend.
Disney price.
Yeah.
For like a day at Disney almost.
I don't think that is worth the value, what the experience is. Frankly, for me, I don't know if any water park would be worth that much.
No, and I think it puts like unnecessary like pressure on the business too to deliver an experience that's worth that cost. To be like, that was worth $100 per person or more.
Yeah.
If you keep increasing the price, but your experience stays here, the value goes.
Disney.
That's exactly, yeah,
Disney.
we're gonna just keep talking about Disney. This is like definitely a subtweet at Disney. So we mentioned before employees that it just appears that they don't care, or they're angry to be there, or they're taking out frustration on their guests.
What's worse than that?
Their boss is doing that.
Management.
Management, yeah. Now, obviously, we don't work in theme parks.
Yeah.
So we're just commenting from a guest perspective that...
We don't know everything that goes on the inside, but
yes.
What the actions in upper management, when that reflects into the experience, it can take on the appearance that management doesn't care. Now, obviously, each individual person is going to be completely different, but, you know, maybe they have other priorities than the guest experience.
Like, here's an example of somebody who is large and in charge, Jeffrey Siebert.
Yes.
That is a park president who his focus is the guest experience. He wants to make the people at his park have the best day possible. And that shines through. It emulates through everything.
That is management that cares, and it shows. I would also cite King's Dominion as of recently with Jungle Expedition. Oh my gosh. Like, when we went on opening day, we were impressed. And then we went back weeks later after they'd added more theming, stuff that we didn't even expect. We didn't even ask for. We were, like, satisfied with everything from opening day, but then they kept adding stuff because they care. Yeah. They wanted to deliver an incredible experience. And then you contrast it with Pantheon. I'm sorry, I get that budgets happen, but it doesn't look good when you open a new roller coaster years after a delay and it seems like the bare minimum was done. It's like, we have a roller coaster, but that's it.
Yeah, it's like, well, people are going to come no matter what, so we don't have to go above and beyond. And it's the parks that do go above and beyond and do put a little bit of extra money into, like, little experiences, whether it be theming or walk-around characters or little shows or things that just make a place feel special.
Things that you didn't have to do, but you did it anyways.
Like, Jeffrey Siebert in Fiesta, Texas did not have to overhaul Poltergeist like that. They
oh my gosh, the station looks incredible.
But it's amazing now. Like, they didn't have to do that, but they care about their park. It's not just a job.
Yes.
You know, it is something that they're throwing their passion into.
This next one, number 9, is something that I wish this were better. And some places do this really well. But I'm talking about food. Because when you have an amazing food experience, it shows. But the fact of the matter is that amusement park food stereotypically is not good. It is looked down upon. And I don't think it should be that way. Like, you're impressed when you have a good meal at a theme park. That should be the expectation.
Yeah. That
you have a good meal. That you're paying all this money, that the food offerings are going to be good.
You're like, wow, this is edible.
Yeah. So
holy crap.
It's like, you go to Dollywood, Silver Dollar City, the Disney parks, any of these, you're going to get good
There you go, Disney.
food
Kudos
options.
to you for something.
You did good on food. But, like, I mean, you step foot into, again, a stereotype here, Six Flags parks, the food is kind of the bare minimum. I think parks are starting to realize this.
Like, I see, like King's Dominion opening up Grain and Grill.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
I would eat that outside of a theme park. And so I really do believe that this is one thing that is changing and for the better.
This one is very important in my mind, and that's taking the better route rather than the cheaper one. And parks tend to do the opposite. They tend to take the cheaper way rather than the way that is best for the people visiting their park. Mm-hmm. Perfect example of this. When Universal was building Velocicoaster, they already had the lockers in the Discovery Center, and it would have been probably a lot cheaper to put just like a locker station outside of the ride if they wanted to add one for smaller stuff or
and
add
then
a couple
just do
more.
what they did with Hulk, where no loose articles, there's the metal detectors, and then you go the entire time in line without a phone.
And for the average person like me or Taylor, not having a phone for a 30-minute line is whatever. But I think about our friend John. We were just hanging out with our friend John recently, who is a teacher. And he was in Disney and Universal for a school trip, like the band trip or whatever. And he has to have his phone at all times because he's chaperoning this trip. So any ride where he has to leave it in a locker for an extended period of time like that, he can't ride it. So the more expensive route here was to put the double-sided lockers in at Velocicoaster, or like Cedar Point did with Steel Vengeance.
Partway through the cube, what they did, and Steel Vengeance and Twisted Timbers, that's an interesting one because I feel like Cedar Fair started off doing the opposite, where they said, we're going to take the cheaper approach, and then they went back and did the better approach. And focused on solving the problem, not just putting a Band-Aid on it. Like, they did surgery on the loose article issue, and I think Velocicoaster, they did the same. So I commend parks that take that extra step to do something better, even if it is going to be more expensive.
This kind of system, while more expensive, is better overall for your guests. And I think more parks need to be taking that approach than Disney. And
well, and honestly, we could get into a whole nother thing about loose articles. That's almost its own separate video.
Yeah.
But I think we did touch on them quite a bit here. And, like we said at the beginning of the video, the goal with each of these is that they're broad enough that, you can kind of apply it to your own situation. You can think about, if you have a park in mind, what are they doing in favor of these or against them? You know, like, and then what can you do that's better? Maybe they're already doing a pretty good job, but is there something that they could do to really improve that guest's experience when they walk through the gates of a park.
Absolutely. And, you know, again, like, this is not meant to be like a rant. Like, we're identifying problems while also presenting solutions. Like, we're not just like here whining and complaining. Like, these are things that can change. And hopefully they will. Because a lot of parks are already doing them.
Yes.
So
yes.
I wouldn't put it past other ones to maybe adopt these kinds of things. Probably not on behalf of our video.
No. But
hopefully.
I think as a whole, like, especially when, you know, guests at the end of the day are going to that guest feedback, you know, they're taking those surveys and laying things down. I think a lot of the parks do listen. And, you know, they're actively doing things to improve. I look at Six Flags for this past year. They added single rider lines at a lot of their parks because that was something that people were asking for. Mm-hmm. And so I really appreciate things like that. Things that, you know, isn't necessarily going to make the experience better for every single person. But
it's not going to make them more money, but...
No, but individual people will benefit from that.
Correct.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you think of this. If you think that there's something that we missed, let us know. And of course, stay tuned for more here at Coaster Studios. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.